Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. Today we are looking at yet another brand new locomotive, and how lucky have we been recently. It's like all the model train Christmases have come at once. We had a brand new loco from Dapol, a brand new loco from EFE Rail or Bachmann, and today we've got a brand new tank engine by Rapido. Today's new tank engine then is a tiny little industrial tank engine, and it's one that I've been looking forward to for quite some time because it's quite an unusual looking piece of kit. So today we are looking at this, the brand new Manning Wardle L-Class by Rapido. Now, the last tank engine we looked at was the Dapol 517 class, and that model was superb. The quality was outstanding, so was the detail, so was the features, so was the mechanism, so was the serviceability. That locomotive was chuffing on all cylinders, and that means quite a difficult act to follow. Plus, today's locomotive is more expensive by about £5. So the RRP is £149.95 for the DCC Ready model, and at the retailers you can get these for £127.45. That means that today's locomotive, at least for me, is going to have to, at the very least, match that wonderful tank engine by Dapol, if not top it, because technically it is a bit more expensive. So is Rapido capable of that? Hit and miss is the answer. Well, that doesn't make sense as an answer, but with some of their locos, yes. The J52s, J13s, superb models, yes. But with the likes of little Alfred and Judy, as beautiful as those models were, they were not on the same level as the Dapol 517 in terms of quality and accessibility and all of that. So I don't know, and I'm quite curious to find out. What I do know though is that these little Manning Wardles are absolutely beautiful. Rapido have been posting samples for quite some time. They look absolutely stunning, and there's loads and loads of different liveries to choose from with different variations, some with full cabs, some with exposed cabs. It's a wonderful looking range, so if you'd like to browse it or maybe pick one up, affiliate links down in the description. For now though, let's take a look and find out at last how this model turned out. Alright, so this one's been quite a long time coming, and it's been a great project to watch through development really. The announcement was great, it was really exciting. We've seen CADs, we've seen samples, we've seen decorated samples, all of this stuff, and finally the models are out. Yeah, I am really looking forward to this one. Anyway, let me show you which one I went for, because like I say, there's a lot of choice, but I had to choose one. So this is 96007, oh, 0007, James Bond's been upstaged, I see. Manning Wardle L-Class Bombay, so this is a named one, and this is DC/silent, although obviously digital options are available. Without any further ado though, let's see if I can get this box open. And we will start with the owner's manual. So here it is, owner's manual, L-Class 060 saddle tank. Let's have a look. So we've got a bit of a contents page and then a bit of a prototype history. Pause and read that if you are interested. I will talk a little bit about these locos later on. I think this is generic information. So unboxing, running in, operation on DC or DCC. I think it's the same drill as usual. How to fit a decoder then. So you have to undo a screw in the chimney. Here we go with Rapido again. Pipe work to unplug. So you've got to pull out all of the pipe work. It says on both sides of the tanks, be careful moving the pipe work as it is fragile. Yes, that's why it's not ideal to have to remove pipe work. But yeah, it looks as though the saddle tank and the smoke box lifts up there. And then you've got an E24 decoder socket. Again, that's not brilliant, is it? It's very non-standard. What's wrong with Next 18 these days? I am not sure. But either way, if you want a decoder, it's the E24 you need. And then servicing the model, let's see, there's no need to remove the keeper plate for servicing. I doubt that that is true. But it looks as though we've got an oiling hole. We'll see if there is actually one there, because last time Rapido claimed there was such a thing, there wasn't. But it looks as though there are screws holding the base keeper on. So with a bit of luck, I'll be able to remove that and show you what's underneath. DCC functions, so that's useful for DCC users. And then we've got accessories, so what do we have here? So a bit of pipe work, optional dumb buffers, that's pretty interesting. And then it looks as though we've got some 3-link chain couplings, so that's a nice inclusion. We shall have a look at those in due course. And there's front and rear vacuum, so yeah, this is how to fit all of these things. So it looks as though the dumb buffers, interestingly, go between the usual buffers. Curious, so would you have both types at the same time, potentially then? Interesting. And then the chain couplings, yeah, that looks fairly self-explanatory. And then we've got a parts diagram, so there you have the Loco itself. Very, very small, but there is a QR code there, so if you want a better look at this, you can download it, look at it properly. Then there's the closed cab variant. Yes, so you can see it's got the different cab parts on there. Yeah, and a massive, massive parts list. And the real thing, of course, just to get the imagination going. All right, so interesting. Lots to see, lots to investigate as well, I think. Let's open this up then. Let's get our first look. Oh, yes. So I went for this particular one because I fancied a red tank engine at the time of pre-ordering, and it looks quite a complex livery in terms of its lining and such, and I wanted one with a name as well to see if I got a nameplate with it. So yeah, let's have a look. Accessories, I assume, are in this slot, and yes, they are. And I am not disappointed. So we've got the dumb buffers there. We do have the Bombay nameplates here, which do seem to have the characters actually etched into them. So that's really good to see, but that's not all. It looks as though we've got a builder's plate there. In fact, we've got a few different plates, 4 different plates. That's awesome. So yeah, straight away, impressed by the offering here. And then, like I say, we've got the dumb buffers and the chain couplings, but no pipes, so I assume maybe those are not applicable to this particular Loco. Anyway, the Loco, we need to have a look at that, and it really does look small, doesn't it? It's always so funny, you can look at samples all day long, but you really don't get a sense of the size of a model until it's in your hands, or at the very least until you sort of see it in person, maybe running on a layout. But even watching a Loco running on a layout, I find, where you can't sort of touch it and get close to it, you still struggle to get a sense of its size until it's here, like this. Anyway, let's remove the plastic. Oh, interesting. So from the top, it looks like a black engine. That's so weird. And again, you don't get a sense of that from the listing images, because most of the time you don't get top-down photographs, but then turn it onto the side, oh yes, it's a red engine. That is interesting, and the finish looks lovely. It really does. Okay, is it weighty? It is. It is really weighty. That is really good to hear. With Rapido, you never know whether you're going to get a plasticky Loco that's light or metalish Loco, which is heavy. And this is heavy. And just like the 517, this model seems to be almost entirely made from metal. So we've got a die-cast running plate, die-cast cab, die-cast saddle tank. Yeah, for its size, this thing is insane. I think this is going to give the Andrew Barclays by Hattons and Acura scale, I think it's going to give those a run for its money. Let's think other 060 Locos. I think the P-Class, yeah, I think this is going to be heavier than the P. We shall see. I'll pop it on the scales shortly. The other thing is the detail. Good grief, just look at that area beneath the saddle tanks there. That is just astonishingly complex. How you're ever going to get the body off for DCC fitting, I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to start, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. This is a stunning Loco. It is just, I mean, it is firing on all cylinders. Everything's lined, everything's detailed. Yeah, I mean, talk about dense detailing. I have never seen so much going on in such a small area. So, bit of background on the Manning Wardles in real life, and then we will take a much closer look at this. The Manning Wardle L-Class was a small industrial or light railway locomotive. The company that built them, Manning Wardle, was based out of Hunslet, Leeds, and they started building locomotives as early as 1859. They were based in the same area as other small locomotive builders, such as the Hunslet Engine Company and also Hudswell Clark, and so the designs from these three companies were often quite similar to each other, given their proximity and the resulting flow of staff members between the companies. Manning Wardle offered a standard range of locomotives to their customers, but with different variations that their customers could choose from. They could pick 040 or 060 wheel configurations, open cabs, closed cabs, smaller or larger boilers, smaller or larger cylinders, all tailorable around the desired workload. They even built some narrow gauge locomotives, so their output was very varied. In 1926, the company closed, having produced over 2,000 steam locomotives up until that point, and then what was left of Manning Wardle was bought out by the Hunslet Engine Company. So while Manning Wardle may be gone today, dozens and dozens of their locomotives remain under preservation. So there it is, a close look at Rapido's brand new Manning Wardle L-Class. Goodness me, this model is beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. The quality's really good on the whole. I think the paintwork is just fantastic, but it is the detail that has almost blown my mind here. I stand by what I said a second ago. I don't think I've ever seen so much detail squeezed into a given space before. It is absolutely incredible. In fact, I would love to know how many separately fitted detail parts this model has, because for a little tank engine, it's a lot. Let's just put it that way, it is a lot. And I also love the fact that for the money, we have a model here which is almost entirely made from metal. That just adds so much to the model. It's improved the finish, it's improved the weight, and it means that when you hold this in your hands, you think, you know what? This is not a cheaply made model. This was worth the money I paid for it. And psychologically, that makes me feel a lot better and a lot less guilty about buying another new tank engine. But yeah, this is gorgeous. So the quality on the whole is really good. I would say overall, this is not a cheaply made locomotive. But there are a few nitpicks that I want to get out the way because, again, next to the Dapol 517 class, some of the smaller detail parts don't seem to be that great a quality. So once again from Rapido, we do have plastic handrails, and I just don't know why Rapido keep doing this. We've paid the money, we expect quality. When there are production processes that mean that we don't have all of these little moulding marks and nicks on the handrails, and that mean that we don't have these sort of wobbly, flimsy handrails, when those production techniques exist, i.e. wire handrails and separate holders, why are Rapido not using them? Because yeah, these don't look great. All the little knobbles and nicks in the handrails where they've been cut from the sprue and all the moulding marks, it's just not a good look. And I have to say the quality of some of the smaller detail parts isn't the best. We've got visible flashing on the reverser rods. Again, other manufacturers seem to produce much higher quality parts than this. And also look at the application of the paint onto this rod here. It's almost like the airbrush wasn't set up properly and you've got this kind of grainy texture to it. Not all of it, some of it looks a lot better, but some of it is looking pretty rough here. So yeah, the plastic detailing needs improving. Also, the colour of the metalwork and the quality of the paint isn't as good as we've seen on other models. And again, I think the timing of this Manning Wardle is a bit unfortunate because we've obviously just seen the LSWR T3 locomotive, which nailed the metalwork. The quality of the paintwork, the brass and the copper specifically, was just top notch on that. With this, it's just giving painted plastic. It doesn't have the same quality colour and finish as the brass and copper paintwork we saw on the EFE rail Loco. So yeah, if I had to criticise this, it would be the quality of the plastic parts. There's a lot of room for improvement there, and given that this was more than the Dapol 517 to buy, again, I would have expected this to match it in terms of quality. And yeah, looking at the Dapol 517 handrails, which are much larger, it's a larger engine, they are made from metal and they look a lot better. Otherwise though, like I say, this model is stunning. So we've got a metal cab, even the roof of the cab is metal, the running plate is die cast, The saddle tanks are die-cast as well. It is a really well-made, good quality model. It's not as heavy as I thought. It weighs 118 grams, which I think for the size of the engine is pretty good, especially when you consider everything that's inside it, tech-wise. But it doesn't weigh as much as the Hatton's P-Class or the Andrew Barclay, whatever. Those were all heavier than this. But then again, it's a small engine. It is mostly made from metal. It can't defy physics. It can only be so heavy if it has got the motor and the DCC socket and the pre-fitted speaker inside it. And there's not a lot of room for all of that because we're talking the tank, basically. So yeah, I think the weight is absolutely fine. Right, let's talk paintwork and decoration then, because this has been nailed, I think. So the finish is brilliant. We've got a really sort of almost glossy finish. It is satin, but it's definitely closer to gloss. That suits this prototype so well. It's a pretty paint job. It looks good in the slightly glossier finish, I think. It's not all done with that finish though. The smoke box has the matte effect applied to it, which is a brilliant contrast, and again, it just adds to the realism. So that, I think, is brilliant. There's a lot of lining on this Loco for its size as well. So the side of the tanks, obviously fully lined, that looks beautiful. The side of the cab and coal bunker, all of this is very, very complexly lined. We've got the springs, the little separately fitted springs, they have a lined section on them. That's precision for you, isn't it? We've got boiler banding where you can see the boiler. That's not been missed, that's been done. We've got toolboxes along the running plate. They are also lined and painted into several different colours. The chassis, where you can see it, that's lined as well. The wheels have full lining on them too, the spokes, the centres. I mean, there is so much going on here. It's absolutely wild. The printed nameplate here doesn't look the best, but they supplied a separate etched one. That is so, so good to see. Same with the other plates. I mean, the printing of this one looks really good, but still you've got an etched one to fit if you want. And then I'm guessing this one might be the builder's plate, possibly. I can't see it, it's so small. But again, there's an etched version of that, and they are good quality etched plates as well. And of course, there's so much other detail picked out as well. I love that we've got the red coupling rods here. The buffer beams are painted into the red as well. I mean, yeah, the precision of the paint job is absolutely brilliant. And if that wasn't impressive enough, we've then got the level of detail. So let's start down at the bottom. We've got loads of detail on the chassis. There's riveting, I can see separate detail parts as well, maybe by the looks of it. They look separate. We've certainly got separate brake rigging, as you can see, which applies to all of the driving wheels there. We've got sanding pipes as well, and if I flip the Loco onto its side, we've got valve gear between the frames, and I think it's things like this that make the weight of 118 grams more impressive, because this is a space that usually could be just packed with dense, heavy metal chassis. But instead, it's an empty space with some plastic valve gear in there. In theory, that should have made this Loco a lot lighter, and the fact that it's still nearly 120 grams is pretty darn impressive. And again, underneath the boiler is open. With the Hatton's Andrew Barclay, they had to fill that in. Well, I don't know if they had to, but they did. This one is open, so it's a lot more realistic. Again, I think considering all of this, the weight is really impressive. And then of course there is the amount of detail on the sides around the tanks. So we've got copious pipework, obviously all separately fitted. We've got tiny valves nestled among the pipework. We've got the springs separately fitted. In front of the tanks we've got this valve and the pipework. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. We've also got a front handrail here, which does seem to be wire. I think that's a good job too, because it's not supported at the front. So yeah, that being wire has made it a lot more sturdy, which is good. We've got the front of the smoke box, which has that unusual wheel design of smoke box handle. Yeah, that's quite interesting, nicely done as well. And we've got a separately fitted lamp bracket up on top of the smoke box there, and the top section of the chimney is separately fitted as well. A little bit of a join visible there compared with some. The buffer beams are quite simple. Obviously there's a lot more detail that you can fit to these if you want to. We do have metal buffers, but these are not sprung, and I don't think that's a great surprise because of the positioning of the buffers in relation to the running plate. Would have been quite difficult to have sprung those, I think, but again, I keep thinking about the Dapol 517 and its sprung buffers and its extra features, such as lighting, by the way, which I don't think this model's got. Yeah, I'm kind of struggling to see why this should have cost more than the 517, given how much better quality that model was and how much bigger and heavier that model was. But, you know, this thing is such a beauty. It is so well done. I don't feel like I can complain about that too much. And there is evidence of Rapido trying to improve here. Again, it's a tiny engine, but we've got the full fat NEM pockets and NEM couplings here. So I think that is Rapido listening to feedback. You can pull these NEM couplings out and you can fit any other NEM coupling you want in their place. That's great. You know, that's what I think a lot of people have been calling for. That's lovely to see. We've got the water filler fitted onto the top of the tanks, all very nicely made parts. Tiny little whistle, obviously that's plastic, and again, the quality of the paint isn't quite up to EFE rail standards, but the size of these parts, how small they are, is very impressive. The windows look great. Yeah, the window frames, the glazing, all of that has been really nicely done. We've got, I think these handrails might be metal, you know, well, at least they seem sturdy, put it that way. Again, they've got the painted finish, but I appreciate that they are nice and straight. And then we've got the cab interior detail. Again, loads of separate parts here, pipework, gauges, turning wheels, controls, all represented here very nicely. Like I say, I don't think we've got the firebox flicker on this Loco. I mean, there doesn't seem to be an opening there, does there? But overall, it is a really impressive cab. Around the back, we've got a pretty interesting coal load. It's not the greatest coal load, really. It looks more sort of like a grain than a coal load. I don't know if this is intentional or not. Did these Locos run on ground up coal or charcoal or something? I don't know, but that looks more like a grain than a coal, doesn't it? Generally, coal comes in bigger lumps than that. I could be wrong though. Let me know what you think. Is that accurate to what sort of coal this Loco would be using? Answers on a postcard. All right, anything else I've missed? I like the representation of the safety valves poking through the top of the cab there. I think that looks pretty cool. But apart from that, yeah, I think hopefully that will give you a good idea of what we're dealing with here. Astonishing levels of detail and a definite improvement in quality over some of Rapido's other tank engines. So definitely going in the right direction. Still room for improvement, I think, on the plastic parts, or at least some of them, and certainly in the quality of the metallic paint that Rapido have used here. Again, this is the same comments that I've made before about Rapido, but you know, while ever these issues are visible, I'm going to keep making these points. But yeah, overall beautiful model, and you know what, given how complex this is, I'm going to say this is worth the money, more or less. But anyway, how does this run? Is it smooth? Is it reliable? Is it serviceable? Has it got a good quality mechanism? I think all of this is going to make or break this Loco, so let's find out. All right, there she is down onto the track, and I am feeling really disappointed. So I filmed the initial performance test and running in, that was all fine, spoiler alert. I'll show you that later on. After that though, I took a look at the mechanism, and this is where the problems start. In my opinion, this Loco is just badly designed. Whoever has designed this needs to book their ideas up. In theory, on paper, in terms of the features, this is a good mechanism. It does tick all of the boxes. But in terms of accessing the insides, in terms of servicing, in terms of accessing the decoder socket, this model is a complete nightmare. It really is, and the problem is other manufacturers have got this nailed down. Whether it's Dapol, whether it's Accurascale, whether it's Hornby, whether it's Bachmann, their models usually are serviceable. So if other manufacturers can get this right, why can't Rapido? In fact, Rapido have shown several times that they can't get this right. But the unfortunate thing is, with some Rapido models, they have made serviceable mechanisms, which is kind of even worse because they can do it, but they're just not doing it. So first of all, we need to talk about removing the base keeper plate, because the instructions claim to quote, "There is no need to remove the keeper plate for servicing," which for Rapido would be very convenient if it was true, but of course that is just not true. There is an oiling point, and yes, that allows you to lubricate the gears without removing the base keeper plate, but there is more to servicing than just putting a bit of oil on the driving gear. From time to time, the bearings will dry out and require lubricating, and eventually the pickups are going to need to be cleaned. We all know how Locos run if they've been sat on a shelf for 6 months or whatever without being used. We all know that Locos do begin to struggle after tens of hours running. Everybody knows that once in a while you do have to clean a Loco's pickups to fix its performance. Why is Rapido pretending that that's not the case? Well, I think I know why. It's because if they pretend you don't need to remove the base keeper plate for any reason, then the fact that the base keeper plate is a nightmare to remove doesn't seem like such a big issue. But if we accept that you do have to remove the base once in a while, which you do, of course you do, then this does not hold water. So let me show you what the issue is here. First of all, a missing screw. Obviously that's a bit of a red flag to start with. If you've ever taken a Loco apart, you know what sort of a rush you would have to be in to forget to put one of the screws in. So that tells us a thing or two about the factory, doesn't it? But anyway, with all of the screws out of the base keeper plate, the base keeper did not come off. First of all, that's because parts of the brake rigging have been glued into the chassis. I don't think these parts should have been glued into the chassis, but looking at the fitting hole here where the paint has come off, it's clear that glue has been used. So again, Rapido not having control over the factories. Parts that need to be removed for servicing should not be glued in. Again, this is the basics. But because of the way the brake rigging is designed and it's all fixed onto the base keeper plate, again, you can't remove the base without pulling all of the wheels out as well. If you look at this, the coupling rods prevent you from actually separating the axles and the wheels from the base keeper plate. So to get these apart, you would either have to undo the crank pins and remove the coupling rods, or remove the actual brake rigging, which seems to be molded onto the base keeper plate. I think it is. So what are you supposed to do? Obviously you can get it off, all right, but how the devil are you going to get it back on and line all the bearings up and the pickups as well? Yeah, it's difficult, let me tell you, and I'm experienced when it comes to this stuff. The average person is not going to be able to do this. And we do have separate bearings on the driving axles, so that's a good quality feature. And we also do have plunger pickups on 2 sets of driving wheels, and 1 set actually has wiper pickups. So these do need cleaning, these will need cleaning, and the only way to clean these is to remove the wheels. Again, once in a while when they start to squeak, these bearings are going to need lubrication, or at the very least a bit of a clean after lots of running. Again, you have to remove the wheel set to be able to do this. So no, I dispute the claim here that you don't need to remove the base keeper plate for servicing. And I also appreciate that they say if you suspect you have a problem, we advise contacting our warranty department first. But again, in 5 to 10 years' time, when these Locos start running badly because they've not been serviced or cleaned properly, do Rapido really want to have to do all of this with every Manning Wardle they've produced? I think realistically not. That is going to be very expensive. Where's the money going to come from to fund the hours of work that that's going to involve? Much better if the customer can do these things themselves. Anyway, let's move on and talk about body removal, because this again is just really badly thought through. So to start with, I decided I was going to pull the pipes away from the body so that I could get the tank off. But the pipe work isn't connected to the tanks. I kid you not, it's not connected to the tanks. So you've got Rapido having customers trying to piggle away at pipe work, which is not connected to the tanks. Once again, clueless instructions. It's really annoying me now. Why do Rapido keep doing this? Have a clue about your own model. There is detail connected to the tanks, which broke, as you're about to see, but it wasn't the pipe work. What are they doing? Why don't they know this about their own product? So to remove the body according to the instructions, you just have to undo the screw in the chimney, and the chimney is just wide enough for standard screwdrivers to get into, so that's good, credit where credit's due. And then I started pulling off the tanks. I splayed out the pipework and I managed to get the tanks off. Once the tanks were off, I noticed this rod was broken. And it's not as though it's been designed to separate in the middle, because looking at this part, yeah, that is clearly broken plastic. That's annoying. Why was this rod not mentioned in the instructions? It's almost as though if there's no convenient workaround for an unfortunate design choice, they just don't mention it in the instructions and leave you to suffer with it. So what has happened here? Well, I assume the idea is that the rod here just slides out of the front of the cab when you remove the body. But of course, looking at this diagram, in order for that to work, the tanks would have to be pulled forwards and not up. If you're pulling the tank upwards, then of course this part is going to shear off instead of slide out. And I have talked to a member of the Rapido team in person about this exact issue with the E1. It was, again, parts that would shear off if you dismantled the model as instructed. And not only have they not learnt from that feedback and done the same thing again with this Loco, in this case, for me at least, it did actually break off the rod. And this is another time when I wish we had the quality metal handrails as well, because trying to yank the tanks off with the cheap plastic feeling handrails flexing under your fingers is not a pleasant experience. But anyway, if you are fortunate enough to get the tanks off without damaging anything, you are greeted with this. Yes, the E24 DCC socket is in there somewhere, but it's buried under a load of wires and tape. So if you wanted to chip one of these, you've got to go digging through all of that to get to the socket. So even this is a bit inconvenient. Now, I know this is a small Loco. It can't have been an easy one to design, but surely Rapido could have done better than this. I feel like they've maybe just tried to do too much with this, because the even smaller Hornby Peckets are so much better designed. Yes, they have less on board, but they are much better to service, and from a user's point of view, I think they're just much better Locos overall. But to Rapido's credit, and let's be positive now, they have managed to cram a lot into this locomotive. So it's got Stay Alive pre-fitted, which for DCC users is going to be brilliant for this Loco, because it's never going to struggle over point work this way. So that's really good. It does have a speaker. The speaker is in the firebox, which I guess explains why there's no lighting on this model. That's where the speaker goes, but again, for sound users, that's perfect. You've got a speaker pre-fitted. Then we've got a pretty large coreless motor for the size of the engine. So again, they've not skimped on this aspect of the model. That is a hefty motor, and it even has a flywheel. The flywheel's well buried, but you can see it there. So yeah, it's got a lot of impressive specs given the size of the thing. And then the back-to-back gauging came in at between 14.3 and 14.4 millimeters, which is good and close to the standard. So yeah, it's a disappointment for me. On paper, it's a good mechanism, but once again from Rapido, we've got this form over function again. It's a pretty looking Loco, and it seems to have been designed to be easy to assemble at the factory, but then what about the customer that then takes care of this thing for the rest of its life? How are they supposed to maintain this thing with this kind of design work on board? It just doesn't make any sense. And with some of it, there's an easy solution. The brake rigging, for instance. All they had to do was make this front section of the brake rigging a separate part that fits onto the bottom of the running plate and not connected to the rest of the brake rigging, and then the base keeper could have been easy to remove. I just don't know why they didn't do that. This is not real brake rigging, folks. It doesn't actually have to function. It just has to look right. Why have we sacrificed the serviceability of this Loco for a detailed part that most people won't be looking at? And if it was designed slightly differently, the issue would have gone away. So I just feel like Rapido have rushed the design of this. It's brilliant how much stuff they produce, but I just wish they would slow down and take more time with the design work, because this is a gorgeous Loco, but it's just let down by a few poor design decisions, which some people won't care about, and if you don't care about it, that's fine. But from my point of view, as a tight arse, If I've spent this kind of money on a locomotive, I want to be able to strip it down, clean it up and service it so that it will last me years and years. The limited lifetime warranty that Rapido offers is brilliant, but if every time a Rapido locomotive needs its pickups cleaning or its axles lubricating, if Rapido are saying they're going to take on all of this work themselves, then I would say they need to be more realistic about that, because that is going to cripple them. If every loco they've made ends up coming back to them 10 years after the fact needing a service, that is going to cost them a fortune. Why would they not just design stuff that's serviceable for the customer? That just seems like common sense. But anyway, all of that aside, because this loco doesn't need a service, and because it's brand new, and because everything's nice and clean and lubricated, the performance is really, really good. And like I say, it's a good mechanism, so it does work properly. Let me show you. All right, moment of truth then. Now, obviously, Rapido is king of the good running tank engine, so let's find out whether Rapido get to keep that title today. Here we go, first bit of power turning up now. Here goes. Bit of a ropey start, actually. But it's not been running yet, and hopefully it will improve as it goes. Yeah, and it's not making any more motor screaming noises. Hopefully you heard that. Yep, that's actually coming to life quite nicely. So I think I'll be prepared to forgive it a slightly frightening, frankly, first rotation of its wheels, because all subsequent rotations seem to have been a lot better. All right. Yeah, that's running okay, and it's just been going over the express points without stopping and cutting out, so that's a good sign straight away. Anyway, what's the speed and gearing like? Obviously not much room in this loco for a large gearbox, so it will be interesting to see that. That's 50. Yeah, that's pretty sensible. Not bad. It's not flying along. I wonder what it can do at full speed. We've got to try it. It'd be rude not to. Here we go. Yeah, do you know what? It sounds really healthy at high speed as well. With some locos you think, oh, blimey, that doesn't sound healthy at all. This one sounds pretty happy at all speeds. All right. Go on then. What's the torque like? I'm thinking it ought to be good. To 50. Yeah, that is good. Look at that. Power to spare then. Very good. And it's quite a heavy loco, so that's quite impressive. What about the crawl then? Straight out of the box. Let's see what this is like. Here we go. Oh yeah. Brilliant. Very slow, very smooth. Smooth acceleration. Ooh, bit of a jump. But again, I think with some running in, that's going to be top notch. So impressive. Yeah, I think based on this, and there is a bit of room for improvement maybe, but based on this first run, I think Rapido gets to keep their title as king of the good running tank engines, which is a slightly convoluted and inelegant title, but I've bestowed it upon them now, so I'm sticking with it. Anyway, let's run it in. Let's see how it gets on around the track. Here we go. Yeah, this is a beautiful runner, folks. It really is so, so lovely. It's one of those that you can just tell it's good just by seeing it run for a few seconds, running past you like this. Yeah, no hesitation, no hiccuping. It's not even stuttered on the points that I've seen. Really reliable then. Nice and powerful, sensible speed, not too fast, not too slow. Great range of speeds as well. Yeah, I think this is going to be a stunning runner. So I'll let this run in. We'll do all of the testing again once it's run in, and we'll see if it's any smoother. Not that it's that far off. And then, of course, we'll test the pulling power and see what this thing's like with a bit of a train. Ah, man. Yeah, this is enjoyable for sure. So I'll be back in an hour's time. Don't go anywhere. Okay, folks, that is running in complete. And yes, I've been very frustrated with the design of this locomotive, but in terms of the way it runs, I cannot fault it. It is a fantastic performer. Those plunger pickups have done it again. I mean, this is so reliable. It's been running for an hour, or maybe a little bit more if we count the testing I did before the running in, and it's never cut out. I've been doing all sorts of stuff with it, crawling over points. It just won't cut out. I'm sure it's going to now that I'm recording, because that's just typical of how my luck is. But even if it does cut out in a moment, which it inevitably will, it's still really, really reliable. Yeah, it's great. And of course, for DCC users, that stay alive is going to mean that this is even better. So yeah, it's a gorgeous runner. Let's do a bit more testing with it then. So the torque was brilliant before. There we go. Yep, so that means all of this Loco's weight is going to be converted into traction, and the fact that it's not struggling to spin its wheels means that it's going to be performing at its best, which is great. Let's have a look at the crawl again then, because this was epic. Turning up. There it goes, inching along. So slow but so smooth. That makes me feel better about marking the T3 down the other day, because this is what a crawl looks like when it's smooth. So this is what we're looking for, folks, when we're looking for the 5-star performance. And then turning up, smooth acceleration. Oh yes. That was the only thing it struggled to do before, and it's just done that flawlessly. So yeah, performance-wise, this thing is epic. Let's move it, let's go for about that speed, and let's send it over the express point, moving you along. Dead zone is here. Please don't let me down. It's just done this perfectly. Here we go. Dead zone now. Good. Right. I'm glad it didn't let me down. Usually I tempt fate and things go wrong. It didn't let me down. Yeah, I mean, that's impressive. It's also got a slightly sprung center axle, which helps to keep all the wheels on the track, supposedly, so that seems to be doing its job as well. So yeah, I mean, performance-wise, how could you fault it? There is no way to fault it. That's the answer. Absolutely brilliant. The pulling power's not the best. I measured 0.22 newtons, which is just a bit worse than the fireless Loco, even though this is heavier than the fireless. So it might just be the wheel material, I guess. I don't know what else it could be. But having said that, that's not too bad for this sort of Loco. You know, if it was a, I don't know, Gresley A4 or something, I would say that's shoddy. For a small, lightweight industrial locomotive, though, that's going to be more than enough. And to prove it, I've set up a big rake of open wagons. There must be getting on for 20 there. I think realistically that's too much for a Loco like this. So if she can haul it and she can pull it up Gordon's Hill without a problem, then I think we can give it the thumbs up on pulling power. And no, it does not use traction tyres, so that's another thumbs up. Okay, let's go and attempt a coupling. Let's see how those couplings work. All right, well, I forgot to do that smoothly. I kind of let it career into the wagons there, but I guess for the purpose of the review, that's done its job. And yep, are we at the right height? Yeah, coupling's absolutely perfect there. So Manning Wardle coupled up to a bit of a stupidly large train for the size of the engine. I think if she can haul this okay, then she has definitely proved herself. So here we go. Turning up, let's do this smoothly again because it's a delight. A bit noisy there, but still smooth even with a massive train. Well, I'm not seeing any wheel slip either. There she goes, and I'm not going to go too quick. I'll go at about 35. I think she looks good at that speed. All right, so there she goes. And then on the middle line, I have my other Manning Wardle L-Class. I think it's an L-Class. You might be saying, what? Well, I built one of these things. In fact, this was my first ever proper attempt at 00 Steam Loco. For whatever reason, I chose the Manning Wardle and I did an FDM 3D print of this thing. And you know what? Rapido's has blown my little attempt out of the water completely. It's, you know, theirs is better in every area. Except serviceability, you can get this thing apart without a problem. But, you know, I've got a lot of lovely memories of this thing, designing it, trying to figure out the mechanism and such. And I thought it's a perfect day to run it. So here we go. Not run it for ages. It still works quite well. And then on the inside line, we have the Dapol 517, which is still on my mind at the moment because it's the latest tank engine before today's. And of course, I still think this is a lot better than what we've seen today. It was cheaper, it's bigger, it's heavier, it's better quality, and more crucially, it's better designed. I'm confident that I can service this thing whenever I need to, very, very quickly, and keep this thing running forever. Well, maybe forever's a long time, but for a good many years. Yeah, for me, that Loco does it for me a lot more than today's. Alright, here she goes, and she doesn't seem to be struggling. She is a magic runner, I have to say. Yeah, really, really good. I was wondering, you know, is this Loco too small to run well, given all the features they've crammed into it? Nope, they have not had to compromise on the motor or the mechanism in any way like that. It's just the serviceability aspect of it that's really let them down. But the question is that a deal breaker? Well, for me, yes, because I like to service my Locos myself. But equally, they do seem to be suggesting that if you ever have a problem with this Loco, you can send it back to them under warranty, by the sounds of it, and they will sort the problem for you. So I would interpret that to mean if in a number of years' time your Loco starts squeaking because its axles need lubricant, or it starts cutting out because its pickups need cleaning, it sounds like Rapido are saying you should just return the Loco to them. And if that's true, and they will just service this thing for you when it starts to run badly, as per the lifetime warranty, then maybe that's okay. Maybe then you could buy this with confidence and just know that they will deal with this for you. I think in years' time, when lots of these models need attention, Rapido are going to be in big trouble if that's the case. I mean, where is the manpower and the hours going to come from to do all of that work? Because like I say, this is not an easy thing to service. There's a lot of difficult disassembly. I feel like that is a massive undertaking for them to take on, but also if they are taking it on, it's not our problem. Big fat, not our problem. So yeah, I mean, you could just buy this with confidence and send it back to Rapido if you had any problems. I think deep down we all know that's quite unrealistic, but frankly, I don't want to ever take this thing apart again after today's performance. So I might try that, you know. If in a few years' time I put this on the track and it doesn't run right and I think, oh, the pickups need a clean or the axles need oiling, I'm just going to send it back to them and they can put their money where their mouth is. Either way, that might push them into designing better and more serviceable mechanisms in the future. It seems like feedback isn't going to be enough for that. I think a lot of returns and a lot of hours spent servicing might do the trick though. So yeah, I don't know if this is a deal breaker or not. I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. The answer is do better and solve the problem that way. But, you know, I have to give them credit. If they are willing to accept models back on warranty, then that's something, isn't it? But anyway, not a bad model. Very, very pretty, beautifully detailed, and it's got a lot of great features for its size as well. I think the price is a bit questionable given the issues. Honestly, if this was perfect, I would have said less than £130 for this is perfectly reasonable. I think given the issues and given how good the 517 was by Dapol, I don't think that's true really. I think this ought to have been cheaper given what was delivered here, but you know, the value's not that bad. You do get a very, very good looking Loco for your money. So yeah, a very mixed bag, that's for sure. Not a bad model, but certainly a model with a lot of room for improvement. Let's have some ratings then for the Rapido Manning Wardle L-Class, and I'm really torn about this because I love it first and foremost. It's a gorgeous Loco, the paintwork and detail is so well done, it ought to be a really impressive model. But then on the downside, there's evidence here that Rapido just haven't listened. They haven't made improvements to the quality of their detailing parts, whether it's the plastic handrails or the plastic reverser rod with the flashing on it, or the quality of the paint finish on the metalwork. I'm just getting a bit tired of feeding back on this and still seeing the same problems. Same in terms of the design of the mechanism and accessing the DCC socket and the bearings. I feel like just the same broken record, making the same good points over and over again, and they're not being addressed. So the level of detail, like I say, is tremendous. The paintwork and the finish, I think, is amazing. The lining looks great, and the amount of detail is astonishing as well. The amount of pipework, the suspension springs, the different control rods, everything. Little sandboxes fixed to the running plate, the cab interior, it's absolutely outstanding. Really, really good. It's just the quality of the plastic components that lets it down. I'm not going to give a model 5 stars for detail if I can see flashing on the detailed parts. Similarly, if I can see other models that have metalwork that looks almost entirely realistic, I'm not going to give this model a 5 on detail if the pipework looks like painted plastic. So it's a few minor things, but to me they make a big difference in terms of the finesse and the fidelity of the final product. So it loses just 1 star for that. Otherwise though, the level of detail is really, really impressive. Features is pretty good for me as well. I mean, for a tiny Loco, it packs in quite a lot. So it does have the pre-fitted speaker, so it's sound ready. It's got stay alive capacitors. It came with some great accessories, including a full suite of etched plates. That's really good to see. It also came with the 3-link couplings for the coupling hooks. That's a really good one. I know some people really appreciate having those to use. And it's also even got a flywheel crammed in. Again, very impressive for the size of the Loco. It doesn't get 5 star though, because this doesn't have any firebox lighting, which granted would be very difficult to achieve on a Loco this small and not sacrifice any of its other features, so sort of understandable. And again, no sprung buffers. Quite understandable once again because of the positioning of the running plate, but these are features that most expensive models of this price do have. So the fact that this model doesn't have those is fine, but I question why then is this more expensive than the Dapol 517. Performance though, I cannot fault. As usual with Rapido, this is a tremendous performer. It runs beautifully, it's smooth, it can crawl, it's reliable over points, even express points, which it doesn't need to be. Fantastic. And for DCC users with that stay alive, it's going to be even more reliable. So yeah, that's brilliant. The pulling power for a small engine is going to be a bit on the low side, isn't it? The pulling force I measured was 0.22 newtons, which is around 16 coaches on straight and level track. That is surprisingly weak, actually. That's less than the Rapido Fireless, even though this was slightly heavier than that. And it's even less than the Hornby Peckett W4, so it's not a powerhouse. Having said that, is this thing able to haul prototypical loads? Yes, it is. These were not hauling heavy passenger trains, they were not hauling long freight trains, they were for light work, and this thing can do light work and even medium work. So it's not as powerful as it could be, perhaps, especially compared with other tank engines on the market, but for anything remotely prototypical, the pulling power is plenty, and the amount of metal on board I really appreciate. That makes that possible, I would say. So the mechanism is a middle of the road 3 star for me. Again, I'm torn here. In terms of the features of the mechanism, it's got everything you could want. Good reliable wiper pickups on every wheel. It's got the bearings fitted onto the driving axles. It's got a good quality coreless motor. It's even got a flywheel. The downside is the serviceability. To access the DCC socket is a nightmare. Potentially it even involves the breaking of some parts because this has been quite badly designed. I don't appreciate having to pull detail bits off a model just to get the body off. Other manufacturers manage to design Locos without that being necessary. I wish Rapido would as well. Same with removing the base keeper plate. Again, how many times is it that we have seen Rapido cock this up? And this is not a common thing. We don't see this with other manufacturers. It's not necessary. With a bit better design, this could have been avoidable. So I've knocked off a couple of stars for the lack of serviceability. The mechanism itself, though, is excellent, as you can see in the performance. The quality, similarly, is something that I'm torn on. Fundamentally, this is a great quality model. It's almost entirely made from metal. The paint job is so precise. We've got quality etched nameplates and different plates. Really, really good quality in some ways. But then in other ways, we've got this expensive model with plastic handrails with flashing and moulding marks on them and areas where they've been snipped off from the sprue and not been tidied up properly. We've got other parts with flashing on them. We've got metal parts that don't look like metal because the quality of the paint isn't good enough. Yeah, this was not a cheap model. It's only a tiny little thing. I just think for the money, this should have been better quality. And then we've got things like the missing screw, which is just the cherry on the top for me. So it's not a terrible quality model, but I think up close this doesn't stand up well to scrutiny, so I've knocked off a couple of stars for that. Okay, value for money then. The RRP is £149.95, and at the retailers this cost £127.45 to buy. Now, in some ways this is worth the money, right? It's a very complicated model. There's a lot of small detail on it. I can see where some of that cost has gone. But at the same time, if we're expected to pay £127 for this, which is more than the outstanding Dapol 517 class, we would expect this to be as good as the 517, if not better. And in terms of accessibility, serviceability, the quality of parts, and just the general design, this just isn't at the same standard. So I've knocked off a couple of marks for that as well. This is something Rapido must improve, I think. It's a very competitive market. Other manufacturers are doing better than them, and it's a shame because these are beautiful models, but they're being let down by inadequate design choices, I think. Anyway, overall that is 7.37 out of 10. I was really hoping to have given this model a higher score than this because, like I say, I love it. But that is a grade of D because it's lacking. It's lacking in finesse, it's lacking in terms of design, and certainly in terms of the quality of the parts. Yeah, I'm disappointed. I love the model and I don't dislike it, but I just know that this could have been a lot better, and it's a crying shame that it wasn't. Anyway, into the logbook it goes. 10th place, just above the Hornby T9 and below the Hornby Coronation. So it's not a bad model. It's ranked really nicely. I would just struggle to recommend this to you because while it works perfectly now, if you ever do need to get the body off, to chip it, or to, I don't know, lubricate the motor, or do anything inside the body, it's a nightmare and there's a risk of damaging it. You don't want that. Also, in a few years' time, or depending on how dirty your track is in a few months' time, if you ever do need to clean the wiper pickups, it's a nightmare to get this thing apart. Well, getting it apart was a semi-nightmare. Putting it back together again, absolutely ridiculous. I wouldn't wish that on someone who's not that comfortable with taking models apart and putting them back together. It's not a well-designed process, and I think other manufacturers just think about these things a lot more than Rapido seem to. So yeah, mixed thoughts, definitely mixed thoughts. Not a bad model, but also not a great one. Alright then folks, well that will just about wrap up this review. Thank you very, very much for watching. Of course, everything in this video is just my opinion. I could be wrong, and so if you think I've been too harsh, or indeed not harsh enough, please do let me know. I want feedback as well, because if most people agree on something, I will adapt and try to reflect that in my future reviews. But no, for now, I think I am going to be standing by what I've said here. We've just seen two beautifully designed locomotives from the likes of Dapol and the likes of EFE Rail, Kerno. Those locos are a good example of a model that's pretty well designed. This one, I think, quite clearly is falling behind on that standard quite a bit. And while it's still a very pretty model, I think it's worth pulling manufacturers up on this because in the future we might get better locos that way, and that's something everybody wants. But still, I'd be interested to hear what you think. What do you think about these issues? Are they important to you, or do you not mind? Do you prefer to be able to service locos yourself, or are you happy to just box the thing up and send it back to Rapido and hope that they'll do it for you under warranty? But anyway, thank you very, very much for watching. If you do want to buy one of these locos, obviously bear in mind everything that's been said today and make a wise choice, make the right choice for you, of course. But if you do want to, I've got affiliate links down in the description. There's a lot of good sides to this model. Like I say, I do think it's a beauty, and there's no denying how fantastic this thing is on the track as it runs. So yeah, I can see why a lot of people will be very pleased with this. But then again, I guess a lot of people at this point aren't taking this model apart and experiencing the servicing process. I don't know, I feel like when it comes to servicing time, this model might present itself in a different light. But we'll see. Maybe I'm just losing my touch when it comes to servicing stuff. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers everybody, you take care.